change how we operate the Soyuz. Even as the pilot of a Russian Soyuz, I helped change some operations in the Soyuz. We are intrinsically involved with making spaceflight safe.
Chang'e 6 lunar probe samples from the unexplored far side of the moon.
A thin, wavering transmission crackled across a private engineering channel at Johnson Space Center, a channel rarely used and never for anything unofficial. The voice was steady, practiced, unmistakably that of a seasoned astronaut, but threaded with an undertone of hesitation that veterans of spaceflight almost never allow to surface. He said he had finally decided to disclose something he had seen on the moon, something he claimed NASA never included in the mission logs, something that, according to him, had been omitted from every public transcript, flight record, and post-mission briefing. What he described was not a malfunction, not a scientific anomaly, not an error in the equipment. He said it was physical, deliberate, and not created by any known human hands. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. He had walked near the edge of a shallow rise during his lunar surface operations, venturing slightly beyond the mapped boundary where mission control preferred to keep him. His oxygen levels were stable, his suit integrity was normal, and no alerts had triggered. From the outside, everything about the EVA had appeared to unfold with flawless routine. But standing at the crest of that muted slope, he noticed that a portion of the regolith reflected light in a way that did not align with the sun's angle. Lunar soil typically diffuses light, scattering it without the shimmering precision one finds on polished materials. Yet part of the ground glinted faintly, as though smoothed or treated. When he scuffed it with the toe of his boot, he revealed a thin, etched surface beneath the dust. He described running his gloved hand along a panel-like section embedded directly into the ground, spanning perhaps a meter in width. Its edges were unnaturally straight. Faint grooves traced patterns across its face, lines intersecting with geometric precision no natural formation on the moon could replicate. He had the immediate, instinctive sense that the object was not merely placed on the surface but built into it, fused with the terrain as though some ancient mechanism had been constructed and later buried by the endless fall of micrometeorite dust. He radioed mission control, but he said he received instructions that surprised him. Rather than the typical protocol of documenting anything unusual, he claimed he was told to move away from the rise and continue with his assigned sample retrieval, no questions asked. The tone in the guidance, he recalled, was unusually abrupt. He considered the possibility that they feared contamination risk or structural instability, both reasonable concerns, yet something about their insistence unsettled him. He was instructed not to take core samples from that region and to proceed with his routine geological tasks as though he had not mentioned the discovery. His helmet camera, always recording, captured the scene. Yet in the officially archived footage, the segment in which he stood at the crest was missing. The timestamp jumped as though the moment had never occurred. He kept silent for years, unsure of whether he had misinterpreted what he saw or perhaps confused the memory during the chaos and exhaustion of surface operations. But the texture beneath his glove, the cold metallic resonance when he tapped the object, and the strangely patterned grooves remained vivid in his mind. He said that after the mission, during debriefings, he was explicitly instructed not to mention the incident. He remembered the phrasing clearly. Focus on the geological samples retrieved, not on ambiguous impressions or field illusions. At first, he complied, telling himself that perhaps the panel-like structure was a trick of lighting, an oddly cohesive patch of basaltic glass, or some rare form of impact vitrification. But he had worked with lunar geology for years. Nothing in his training or experience matched what he had seen. Years later, after retirement and removed from the immediate oversight of the agency, he admitted he could no longer reconcile the silence with his conscience. He insisted NASA had hidden the existence of the object and suggested it might not have been the only one. He spoke of how certain EVA transcripts from multiple missions contained unexplained gaps and how some astronauts reportedly exchanged glances or changed topics abruptly when asked about anomalies encountered during their lunar traverses. His revelation, whether entirely accurate or tinged with the distortions of memory and secrecy, reignited a long-standing question. What exactly had astronauts observed on the moon that never made it into official reports? The implications of such a claim ripple into every corner of space science, policy, history, and human curiosity. If the astronauts' description is taken at face value, it suggests that artificial structures, or at least artificial objects, might exist on the lunar surface, distinct from the remnants of human exploration. The moon, long regarded as a barren sphere carved by volcanic activity and billions of years of impacts, could hold evidence of technological activity not attributed to humanity. The mere possibility reframes the moon from a passive satellite into a location that might harbor relics of unknown origin. One implication is the potential reevaluation of past lunar missions. Every documented EVA, every photograph, and every seismic or thermal reading becomes subject to new scrutiny. The astronauts who walked on the surface described subtle oddities over the years, unexplained reflections on distant ridges, unexpected electromagnetic disturbances, and occasional anomalies on their instruments. Most were chalked up to environmental extremes, equipment limitations, or harmless illusions born from fatigue and isolation. But if an astronaut claims to have found a constructed surface beneath the dust, these once dismissed anomalies gain renewed significance. Another consequence lies in the nature of government decision-making. If NASA did conceal such information, one must consider the motivations behind the secrecy. Concerns about public reaction, scientific uncertainty, military interest, or geopolitical ramifications could all play a role. Space agencies operate in an environment where information is meticulously curated, not necessarily to deceive, but often to prevent confusion or misinterpretation. However, actively suppressing the discovery of an artificial lunar structure suggests a conscious desire to control the narrative surrounding humanity's place in the universe. This revelation challenges the long-held assumption that the moon is the most thoroughly documented extraterrestrial body in existence. Landing sites, mineral compositions, crater ages, and regolith characteristics have been cataloged in extraordinary detail. Yet beneath that layer of certainty lies the possibility that something fundamental has been omitted. If a panel-like object embedded in the lunar ground exists, then the methods used to map and monitor the surface may have overlooked or deliberately masked similar formations. It also raises the question of how many such anomalies might be concealed beneath the dust. The moon accumulates fine regolith steadily over time, and even significant structures could become obscured after millions of years. If the object the astronaut described was partially buried, it may represent only a fraction of a larger system or construct. The grooves he saw, geometric and deliberate, could be part of a more complex design intended to serve a function long lost to time. The event draws attention to the moon's ancient past. Scientists already propose that the lunar surface preserves history far older than anything detectable on Earth. Without weather or tectonic activity, the moon holds a near-perfect geological record stretching back billions of years. If some form of intelligent activity occurred in the distant past, whether from an early terrestrial culture that achieved forgotten technological heights or from an extraterrestrial source, the moon would be an ideal place to search for remnants. Its stability and lack of erosion make it a natural repository for artifacts. Should the astronauts' claim hold even a kernel of truth, researchers would need to rethink the type of missions sent to the moon. Rather than focusing solely on mineral extraction, habitation testing, or further exploration of volcanic plains and crater basins, missions might be expanded to include archaeological objectives. Specialized rovers equipped with subsurface imaging tools, spectrometers capable of detecting synthetic materials, and drones designed to identify unnatural geometry could be deployed to revisit the area described. The notion of concealed lunar structures also intersects with long-standing theories about the moon's unusually synchronous orbit, its anomalous density distribution, and its magnetic remnants that seem inconsistent with its current geological state. While mainstream science attributes these to natural processes, the presence of artificial objects, even small ones, could encourage a broader conversation about the moon's history and formation. Though the majority of experts would still argue for natural explanations, the threshold for considering alternative possibilities would shift. The astronaut's account also highlights the psychological burden carried by those who explore beyond Earth. Astronauts trained to handle extreme isolation, intense focus, and the surreal experience of walking in environments where no life exists. They develop strict mental discipline, knowing that their observations must be measured, accurate, and grounded. For such a person to report something so extraordinary suggests a depth of conviction not easily dismissed. His decision to reveal it after years of silence reflects an internal struggle between duty, reputation, and the desire for truth. One cannot overlook the technological implications. If the object he touched was genuinely artificial, understanding its composition and origin could reveal techniques or materials far beyond current human capability. Even a fragmentary artifact could revolutionize engineering, physics, or materials science. The linear patterns he described might represent circuitry, symbolic language, structural reinforcement, or something entirely unknown. Without further access, speculation ranges widely, but each possibility carries profound potential. The claim also invites re-evaluation of the visual archives sent back from lunar missions. Thousands of photographs and hours of footage exist, yet subtle anomalies, small angular shadows, reflective points, odd symmetries in the terrain, have often been dismissed as compression noise or photographic artifacts. With new eyes trained by contemporary image processing and machine learning, analysts might uncover patterns previously overlooked. It is possible that something similar to what the astronaut saw has been captured before, hidden in plain sight among mountains of data. Another implication touches on international relations. If one nation possesses evidence of artificial structures on the moon and chooses not to disclose it, this secrecy could influence partnerships, treaties, and cooperative missions. The moon is increasingly becoming a domain of competitive interest, with multiple countries planning bases, mining operations, and scientific installations. Knowledge of ancient or extraterrestrial artifacts would dramatically alter how governments perceive the value and risk of lunar territory. This revelation also affects philosophical and cultural perspectives. Humanity has long regarded the moon as a silent companion, reflecting our curiosity and symbolizing our desire to explore. If it holds artifacts of intelligent origin, it becomes more than a celestial body. It becomes a bridge between civilizations or epochs. The discovery would shift conversations about humanity's uniqueness, prompting religious, scientific, and existential reflection. People might reconsider myths and ancient stories that reference celestial visitors or lunar mysteries, interpreting them through a modern lens shaped by technological understanding. For scientists, the primary concern would be verification. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and without direct physical samples or high-resolution data, the report stands on the credibility of a single witness. Yet astronauts are not typical witnesses. Their neurological profiles, observational training, and environmental exposure make them among the most reliable observers alive. Their lives depend on noticing details, interpreting subtle signs, and reporting anomalies with precision. While memory is imperfect, the consistency of his recollection and the specificity with which he described the artifact command attention. Perhaps the most intriguing implication lies in the possibility that NASA did not intentionally hide the object out of malice or manipulation. Instead, it can be considered that the agency may have lacked the resources or evidence to conclusively interpret the discovery and therefore chose caution. Announcing an ambiguous finding with limited context risks misinterpretation or sensationalism. With budgets fluctuating, political oversight, and the need to prioritize missions with clear objectives, the agency may have placed the anomaly into a classified category, pending further investigation that never materialized. The artifact may remain exactly where it was seen, buried under decades more dust. The revelation has led many to reconsider the nature of secrecy in space exploration. Governments classify data not only to conceal threats, but to manage information responsibly. However, when such secrecy intersects with discoveries that challenge humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos, the line between caution and suppression becomes blurred. The astronaut's disclosure forces a re-evaluation of how much the public deserves to know and how much remains withheld in the name of stability or scientific rigor. the idea of hidden lunar structures encourages renewed interest in the lesser explored regions of the Moon. The far side permanently facing away from Earth remains sparsely documented. Rugged terrain, communication challenges, and logistical complexities have limited detailed exploration. If the near side contains anomalies, the far side could hold even greater mysteries, protected from human observation for millennia. Future missions may prioritize these regions, seeking evidence of artificial geometry or subsurface constructs hinted at by the astronaut's account. His revelation also raises questions about the types of monitoring used by NASA during missions. Helmet cameras, rover feeds, orbital imaging, and telemetry systems collect vast amounts of data. If footage was removed or withheld from public archives, someone would have had to make that decision deliberately. This implies the existence of internal review processes that determine what information is released and what remains classified. While not inherently suspicious, the presence of such processes highlights the layered complexity behind what the world sees versus what mission insiders experience. The story reverberates through the aerospace community. Engineers wonder what materials or construction methods could endure on the Moon for unknown spans of time. Astronomers consider how artificial structures might reflect or absorb light differently than natural regolith, affecting photometric readings. Historians ponder whether ancient accounts of celestial phenomena could relate to earlier encounters with such structures. Even futurists speculate about the implications of discovering remnants of an advanced civilization, whether human or extraterrestrial. One cannot ignore the symbolic power of the astronaut's decision to speak. Space exploration has always been intertwined with human courage, curiosity, and the drive to uncover truths that transcend individual lifetimes. By revealing something he was instructed to forget, he embodies the tension between institutional authority and personal responsibility to knowledge. His voice, though solitary, breaks through the silence that has surrounded the incident for years. The idea of an artificial object hidden on the Moon also redefines the narrative of lunar exploration. Instead of seeing the Apollo and subsequent missions as straightforward scientific achievements, this revelation reframes them as chapters in a larger, more enigmatic story. It suggests that astronauts may have encountered traces of something that predates not just space programs, but possibly human civilization itself. The Moon, barren and silent, may hold remnants of a narrative no one has fully deciphered. If missions were to return to the site described by the astronaut, the potential discoveries could reshape multiple scientific fields. Archaeologists would join geologists on lunar expeditions. Materials scientists would scrutinize samples unlike anything previously encountered. Physicists might confront technologies that challenge known principles. Yet these possibilities remain speculative until someone revisits the location and confirms whether the object truly exists as described. The implications extend even to the design of future habitats and infrastructures. If the Moon contains artificial constructs, studying them could inform how humans build their own long-lasting installations. Understanding how an object endured eons of radiation, vacuum, and micrometeorite impacts could revolutionize approaches to extraterrestrial engineering. Even if the structure's function is unknown, its survival alone would offer invaluable lessons. The astronaut's account reframes the Moon not as a conquered frontier, but as a repository of unknown complexity. It invites the world to look at the familiar lunar face with new reverence, as though the ancient lights and shadows conceal secrets waiting to be uncovered. The event underscores that humanity's greatest discoveries may still lie just beneath the surface of places thought to be already understood. Curiosity surrounding the claim pushes researchers to consider more advanced surveying technologies. High-resolution synthetic aperture radar from lunar orbit, ground-penetrating LiDAR, and automated scanning algorithms could search for patterns that deviate from natural formations. The quest to verify the astronaut's claim encourages innovations in remote sensing and planetary cartography. Even if no other structures are found, the enhanced mapping will benefit future missions. The revelation also reshapes public imagination. The Moon becomes not just a symbol of exploration, but a place where mysteries linger. Storytellers, scientists, and educators find themselves inspired to reconsider the role of the moon in human history. It becomes a catalyst for renewed interest in space, sparking questions among students and researchers about what else lies hidden beyond Earth. The astronaut's voice, transmitted after years of silence, serves as a reminder that space exploration is as much about confronting the unknown as it is about extending technological boundaries. His experience illustrates that even in environments meticulously mapped and studied, surprises await. His disclosure compels humanity to acknowledge that the universe may hold artifacts of intelligence far older or more advanced than expected, and that the path to understanding them begins with the courage to speak about what has been seen. The event stands not as a conclusion, but as a beginning. The implications unfold in countless directions: scientific, political, philosophical, and cultural. Whether the concealed object is ultimately confirmed or remains a solitary account, the fact that an astronaut found something anomalous enough to hide and later reveal reshapes the perception of the moon itself. It challenges assumptions about what lies on the surface and beneath it, urging humanity to continue exploring, questioning, and seeking answers beyond the limits of current knowledge. His revelation echoes through agencies, laboratories, lecture halls, and living rooms, touching the imagination of anyone who has ever gazed at the moon and wondered. It reinforces the idea that even the smallest discovery, one etched panel buried beneath dust, can alter the trajectory of understanding, pushing humanity to reconsider what it truly knows about its ancient companion in the sky. The astronaut's disclosure, once it seeped into public consciousness, began to influence how new generations of scientists conceptualized the moon. What had long been regarded as a static, predictable environment suddenly appeared dynamic in its potential to surprise. Researchers who had spent decades studying only geological processes found themselves entertaining the possibility of technological signatures hidden within lunar strata. No one claimed certainty, but the shift in mentality alone was transformative. It opened the door to interdisciplinary speculation, merging astrophysics with archaeology, anthropology, and exoplanetary studies in a way that had never been seriously attempted before. This emerging curiosity spurred engineering teams to revisit shelved concepts for advanced lunar survey missions. Ideas once deemed excessive, such as mobile tunneling probes capable of burrowing several meters beneath the surface, were reconsidered with renewed interest. Engineers debated how to design robots that could detect metallic structures, synthetic composites, or energy residues incongruent with natural minerals. The underlying question they now faced was unprecedented. How does one search for something without knowing what it is, what it does, or what it's made of? The search for answers also influenced academic institutions. Universities that traditionally separated geological sciences from aerospace engineering began to introduce hybrid fields, preparing students for a future where discovering unknown structures on celestial bodies might become a standard part of exploration. Courses on artifact detection in extreme environments, material resilience under cosmic conditions, and the signatures of pre-human technologies found newfound relevance. This intellectual shift, inspired by a single astronaut's recollection, gradually reshaped the framework within which humanity thought about extraterrestrial environments. Conversations about the astronaut's revelation extended into philosophical circles as well. Thinkers contemplated what it would mean if the moon harbored remnants of a technology crafted by intelligences that predated human civilization. Some entertained the idea that Earth's early history might intertwine with entities capable of venturing into space long before humanity emerged. Others argued that if such constructs existed, they might serve as cosmic markers, artifacts created by advanced cultures to signal their presence or achievements. These interpretations, while speculative, invited reflection on humanity's long-held assumption that intelligence is rare and civilization an anomaly. The idea of hidden lunar structures also reframed how people interpreted silence in the cosmos. For decades, scientists wondered why, despite the vastness of the universe, no indisputable signs of intelligent life had been found. The astronauts' claim suggested a different possibility. Perhaps the evidence was not absent, but overlooked, buried, or left in plain sight in ways humanity had failed to recognize. This perspective recast the moon as a testing ground for deciphering subtle clues rather than dismissing unusual formations as coincidences. Beyond philosophical questions, practical considerations emerged. If artificial objects existed on the moon, their origin became an urgent matter of inquiry. The possibility that such artifacts were remnants of a prehistoric terrestrial civilization, now long extinct or forgotten, fascinated researchers across fields. Although mainstream scholars rejected the notion that humanity once reached advanced technological heights and then regressed, a few pointed to gaps in the archaeological record, unexplained ancient texts referencing celestial craft, and legends of gods descending from the sky. The astronaut's account, while not evidence, provided a narrative anchor that encouraged renewed analysis of these old mysteries. Others focused on extraterrestrial explanations, proposing that visitors from distant star systems could have surveyed the moon tens or hundreds of thousands of years ago. The moon, with no atmosphere or tectonics, would be an ideal storage ground for long-lasting installations. If the grooves etched into the buried panel represented a language or symbolic system, deciphering them could unlock knowledge from minds far older or more advanced than humanity's. The implications of such a discovery would dwarf any scientific breakthrough in recorded history. Considerations also arose regarding cosmic timescales. If the artifact was ancient, predating even the earliest human ancestors, it could challenge the timeline of technological emergence in the universe. Some scientists theorized that civilizations might rise and fall across millions of years, leaving behind fragmentary traces scattered among celestial bodies. The moon, pristine and unchanging compared to the shifting geology of Earth, could naturally preserve such evidence without erosion, vegetation, or atmospheric wear. Political consequences soon surfaced as the idea of undocumented lunar structures gained traction. Governments began reevaluating the strategic importance of lunar territory. If artifacts with technological value were on the moon, their possession could alter geopolitical power dynamics. Nations with active lunar programs found themselves under pressure to accelerate missions, not for resource extraction, but to search for any remnants resembling what the astronaut described. Even countries without advanced space agencies expressed interest through partnerships and funding proposals for exploratory missions. International organizations found themselves grappling with ethical dilemmas. If an artificial structure were confirmed, who would have the right to study it? Should it be considered the property of all humankind, or of whichever country retrieved it? Would it be treated as a scientific discovery, a cultural treasure, or a strategic asset? The debate grew complicated as scholars urged global cooperation, fearing that competition could lead to secrecy, territorial conflict, or exploitation of information that should be shared universally. As these discussions intensified, the field of mission planning underwent a transformation. Planners realized that traditional objectives like geological sampling and dust analysis might no longer suffice. New priorities emerged: scanning for geometric anomalies, analyzing unexplained energy reflections, and revisiting areas previously dismissed as uneventful. The astronaut's mention of straight edges, etched grooves, and buried metallic resonance provided enough detail to design targeted search algorithms. At the same time, psychological research took on an unexpected role. Experts sought to understand how astronauts perceive anomalies in extreme environments. The moon's stark desolation, unfiltered sunlight, and lack of atmosphere create visual distortions unlike anything on Earth. Yet the astronaut in question maintained that what he saw was unmistakably artificial. His mental clarity, extensive training, and years of experience strengthened the credibility of his account. Psychologists examined how such revelations might affect future explorers, who now had to prepare not only for physical danger, but for the possibility of encountering evidence that challenged fundamental beliefs. The broader public responded with a mix of fascination and existential intrigue. For many, the moon had always seemed familiar, a bright, silent observer in the night sky. The idea that something older than recorded history might lie concealed beneath its dust reawakened a sense of wonder reminiscent of humanity's earliest stargazers. People began to revisit lunar photographs, analyze mission footage, and discuss theories in forums and documentaries. Amateur astronomers joined the search, examining high-resolution satellite imagery for signs of unnatural geometry. Cultural expressions soon followed. Writers, artists, and filmmakers drew inspiration from the possibility of lunar artifacts, creating stories that merged scientific plausibility with imaginative speculation. These works explored themes of ancient contact, humanity's cosmic role, and the fragility of civilization. The astronaut's revelation became a creative catalyst, fueling narratives that questioned what other secrets the universe might be concealing. Meanwhile, scientists devised new experimental approaches. One proposal involved using seismic vibrations generated by microexplosions to create detailed subsurface maps. Another involved deploying swarms of nanobots capable of scanning for non-geological materials across wide swaths of terrain. These concepts, once considered unrealistic, now seemed essential. If the astronaut's account represented even a single data point, it justified designing missions with unprecedented ambition. Data analysts also began to comb through archived lunar records using modern image processing tools. Neural networks trained to detect geometric anomalies sifted through thousands of images from various lunar orbiters. Although no definitive matches surfaced, several regions displayed patterns that warranted further exploration. These findings did not confirm the astronaut's description, but they demonstrated that subtle anomalies had been overlooked due to the limitations of older analytical tools. A deeper scientific conversation emerged regarding the nature of technological decay on celestial bodies. On Earth, organic decomposition, corrosion, and biological growth rapidly erase human constructions. On the Moon, however, objects could remain intact for millions of years. Even fragile materials might survive if shielded from impacts. This realization encouraged researchers to think about what types of artifacts would persist through cosmic time. The astronaut's description of a panel-like structure aligned with this reasoning: flat, embedded, and protected beneath layers of dust. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on astronauts revealing NASA hid mysterious structures on the Moon? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.